Up next is Alan Lehto, or Lehto, as your preference is, discussing the future of Powell Boulevard bus rapid transit. Since light rail dreams are starting to fade into the sunset, they'll go for second best. Bus rapid transit. I really don't know how they can even consider doing anything in addition to what they're doing. They're already stretched to their thinnest, but they're so addicted to expansion that they just don't know how to stop. They just won't perfect what they have. They won't make things really nice with what they have. They got to keep on stretching themselves too thin. Be it as it may, that's the way it is. I guess.
This along here. Let's go to the Powell Division Transit Project down later.
So, Mr. Board President, members of the board, as Alan comes up, new lingo, a new set of acronym, BRT, for you, which is Bus Rapid Transit. And it is a new consideration in many of our high-capacity transit studies.
You know, really, McFarland really is an old fuddy-duddy. He tries to be cool. Over and over, he tries to be hip. New lingo, BRT. He's trying to be funny and cool, but he's too fucking square to pull it off.
Is a flexible mode, and Alan Lehto will show you why.
Thanks, and Mr. President, members of the board, thank you. Please give me a signal if I'm taking too long, because I know we're running long. What I probably need to ask you to do for this is to put on your future glasses, because we're talking a number of years out. This is sort of beyond when we've restored our service and we're back into expansion. These kind.
You did hear what he just said, right? He said this is in the future when we restored our service. And we're back into it, and we're back into expansion. You haven't stopped the expansion. You've got a whole light rail line expanding this as you speak. So I don't know what they mean when we're done. When we go back to the expansion, he's being shifty there. You know, he's trying to tell us that they're stopping. But see, this is what I've been saying all along. Don't watch what they say. Watch what they do, because he's saying they're not expanding, but yet we know they're expanding, and it's very smooth the way he pulled that off too. I caught you, Alan.
Kinds of projects, even a relatively nimble bus rapid transit project, takes a number of years to develop, and we're in the absolute first stages of looking at this Powell Division corridor, which I'll describe a little bit, just to give some context of why we're even talking about this at this point. So what I wanted to hit on here was just talk a little bit about how it fits in the regional priority and how it would fit in TriMet's system overall. The two cities, Portland and Gresham, the efforts that they're making in advance of this, the great destinations in the corridor and why we see this as a place with great potential, and then just a mention of the next steps coming up. So the first item, looking at how it fits in the regional corridor and in the regional priorities and how it fits within our system. A few years ago, Metro, representing the region, adopted the Regional Transportation Plan. It included a high-capacity transit plan, and there were 3 corridors identified as having very high potential in sort of the next few years to look at. The 3 are the West Line here, which of course is now operating, and we're simply monitoring the effectiveness of that line. The second is the Southwest Corridor, which actually performed the best of the 3, and that, as you've seen with a presentation, I think, from Dave Unsworth a few months ago, is underway and currently looking at a bus rapid transit with exclusive right-of-way or light rail potential moving forward. The third is this Powell Division Corridor. And how does that fit into our system? Here you can see our existing MAX system.
See, these guys have huge expansion plans. This Powell briefing isn't even on the list of, is not the top priority. This is number 3. It tells you how much they're trying to build here. It's crazy.
And the WES and the lines that are either under construction or in engineering. And you can see how it creates another line, another high visibility, high capacity line on the east side and starts to create something of a grid. And that grid is the best way to serve the kinds of trips that people are making these days, which is not everybody's going from a residential suburb to a downtown. We've known that for a long time. We also know that the best way to serve that kind of everywhere to everywhere movement is with a grid that allows transfers at a number of different points, is frequent enough so that people can make trips throughout the day and the weekends. And we obviously have some of that with our frequent service bus network, but as we start to build the system overall, the high-capacity transit network can benefit from that kind of treatment as well. So just a mention of what the two cities are doing. The cities of Portland and Gresham are looking at the key places along the corridor. Where are those places where there's great demand now, there's great opportunity for future growth, for economic development, for economic opportunities for the people who live in the corridor. There's a lot of what they call workforce housing, which is relatively affordable housing where people are living but still needing to make sometimes long trips to make it to their jobs or make it to educational opportunities. And the idea here is for the two cities to do that visioning ahead again so that we're able to respond and create a transit system that supports that growth opportunity over time, as well as supporting and serving the existing riders. So the great destinations, I can't take you out on a tour, but I can at least give you a little bit of sense of what's along the alignment. Obviously downtown and PSU. And we also, with a bus rapid transit opportunity, could look at whether the line should serve up north on the mall, or whether it should get into downtown, serve sort of the middle, and then head to the west and make a connection with the West Side Max, and make an east-west regional connection that we don't really have between sort of southeast neighborhoods and, say, the high-tech employment on the west side. Moving on then, to South Waterfront and OHSU, connected by the tram with a station down there, would have all of those access to those jobs and to the folks who are living down there and expected to grow over time. The bridge itself under construction, of course, and with a transit way there that accommodates buses would allow a bus rapid transit to be able to get in and out of downtown quickly and avoid congestion, to be able to make that as reliable as possible. Moving on through the southeast neighborhoods, then we come to PCC Southeast, which is Portland Community College's newest full-service campus. It's the fourth in the system, so it begins to provide the same levels of kinds of service and education that Cascade and Rock Creek and Sylvania do. Two neighborhoods to kind of focus in on, there are a number of neighborhoods along the way, but two to focus in on: the Jade District and the Midway area on Division, places that there's a lot of focus in on and a lot of opportunity for economic development, new jobs and new housing in those areas. And then a number of places in Gresham, from the Civic Neighborhood, downtown Gresham, the Mount Hood Community College, up on Stark is the largest hospital in East County, and potentially even Gresham Vista, which is a large, ready-to-be-developed industrial and employment area just north of Stark Street. So you can kind of see in terms of the destinations along the corridor what an opportunity there is here. There's also high ridership already on our existing frequent service lines, with about over 9,000 boardings on the Line 4 division.
Notice how he abuses the word frequent service, our existing frequent service. You don't have any frequent service. You'll have some frequent service in March, possibly, although I personally don't consider every 15 minutes frequent service, because if one drops out, you're potentially waiting a half hour or more, because don't forget, if one drops out, the next one is not only picking up that load, but the one that dropped out load too, so that gets later and later and later. Anyway, he's used the word frequent service over and over, even though there is no frequent service right now, and that's an example of how they propagandize things that really aren't true. And I like to point this out because it's so prevalent in their propaganda.
And close to that on the Line 9 Powell. And of course I mentioned already the PMLR Bestway, with the opportunity to be able to get in and out of downtown. And so a brief mention on next steps. I don't want to let this go by without mentioning the very important factor that we're also conducting, as you know, our service enhancement plans, where we work with the communities and the jurisdictions to create that vision of what the overall transit service should look like in the future. And we're doing that hand in hand with the Powell Division corridor, so that it's not just the corridor, it's the entire system that we're looking at. So the corridor can enhance the system can enhance the corridor. If this moves forward, after we develop the alternatives and start to look at options during 2014, the hope would be to narrow in on a preferred alternative by the end of calendar 2014, around about there. So just a little bit more than a year from now. Beyond that, then, if there's a project that is chosen to move forward, we would be looking at potential for a small starts application to the Federal Transit Administration if it is indeed bus rapid transit that is chosen as the preferred alternative, and the appropriate environmental impact, and furthering the engineering and moving forward beyond that. If it is a bus rapid transit that takes advantage of the Milwaukee Transit Way, is relatively on street, we could be looking at a line that could be in service in 4 to 5 years. If it's a more substantial line, it gets longer beyond that. But a real opportunity on this corridor, as I said, to be able to provide some improvements, provide something that gives that faster, more reliable, and more visible sort of part of the system, while being supported and enhanced by our frequent service and the rest of our network on the east side and southeast. So with that, if you want to add anything, or if you're...
You understand what we really see here, I hope. What you see is the forces, centrifugal force almost, the self-propelling force of the abundance of transit planners. Okay, the people that have basically taken over TriMet are in control of TriMet policy. So he had these grandiose plans. I mean, I'm not sure what they're thinking, but where are they going to get the money for a Tigard extension and BRT over there, and then they're going to move, or light rail, and then move up to Powell Boulevard over there, and then do something on the west side over there on 57 line. I just don't understand what they're thinking. But what we're seeing is this whole army of high-paid, six-figure planning staff making plans that really, how can they come true? And I don't see how they're going to pull all this off. But yet here they keep putting it out. Well, of course, if they don't put this stuff out, they don't have a job. So the capital projects is TriMet now, and all of these things are involving capital projects. Of course, I've always said all you need to do is get the buses running true frequent. You don't need bus rapid transit. If you had a bus every 10 minutes, it would be good enough. And if you made the bus comfortable and threw in an amenity like Wi-Fi, people will be out of their cars on those buses. You don't need any fancy lanes. You don't need any fancy rails. You just need to make it comfortable and make it frequent. People will ride. But we're stuck under the prison of these capital projects people who refuse to see the forest from the trees. They just can't see that it's right in front of their face. The transit problem's right there, but there is no capital project needed. It's current roads, keep the current roads in good repair, run more buses, run frequent buses, run nice buses. People will ride it.